And now I would like to actually spend a little bit of time on Belarus, because obviously this is a country where I'm from, where I am still, unfortunately. And this is, once again, I will repeat why I'm not doing kind of a video version of this, why I'm not doing more kind of, once again, on camera stuff, or none actually, because I am afraid for my own life. Because in Belarus, there are absolutely harshest fucking laws. There is still capital punishment, so death punishment for several things. There are ginormous criminal, basically, sentences. Sentences for like anti governmental kind of positions, 8 years, 10 years, fucking 20 years, or capital punishments, and so on and so forth. And I'm pretty sure with all these videos, with all these podcasts that I've done, with all the information I shared, and especially my opinions that I've shared, I'm pretty sure I've already like sentenced myself to don't know fucking how much, but definitely not for just a not just for a cash fine. That's for sure. So anyway, by the way, this website is banned in Belarus, and I cannot open it because there is only one basically provider, internet provider in the whole country that connects the country to the external world. So all the traffic that goes into the country or outside the country will have to go through that like a state-owned provider, and so they can ban anything on like a top level. And sure, like proxy websites, VPNs can work, but if they really want, they can actually disconnect the whole country from the internet, like they've done, or at least like they've done to a big degree during 2020, in August of 2020, especially on 9th of August and several days later, when Belarus held so-called presidential elections, which turned out to be absolute fucking farce and showed that there is no hope for this country anymore. And yeah, it's gonna have to burn in flames, unfortunately, because this cunt, fucking mustache potato fur, he was stupid enough to not allow any basically semblance of like change of power and new presidents and whatnot. So he decided he will be Tsar of this land forever. Yeah. Anyway, so that fucking potato Führer called Lukashenko, right? He signed a decree, basically about stripping citizenship of opposition figures who have basically immigrated, or fled basically to another countries. Um, and I don't think like, I'm pretty sure in constitution it, I don't I'm pretty sure in constitution it's forbidden to strip away citizenship. But who cares about constitution in this fucking country? Nobody really. Anyway, so that law was signed in secrecy, basically. And now and now people who have been kind of, and now basically people who have been participating in extremist activity, or basically like, I don't even understand like harsh, like what, severe harm. I don't even understand how you can severely like harm the government. I don't even get like how the fuck that should work. Like what the fuck is severe harm, or yeah, to the government, and who are basically right now um are out of the country. Now they can be stripped away of their citizenship by like a court court decree, basically, which is obviously the courts are non-existent, like independent courts are non-existent, and so it's basically like if you you've been participating in this like so-called extremist activity, which was basically like protesting against this fucking regime. If you are still inside of the country, you are most likely in jail. If you are outside the country, now they can strip away your citizenship. Which, I mean, if you are already outside the country, I don't think you should give a fuck about this stupid passport, to be honest, which is one of the worst passports in the world in terms of like freedom of movement. So it doesn't give you anything, to be honest. So if they strip away this shit, like who gives a fuck, to be honest? If I would be outside of the country and this stupid fucking shithole of regime stripped away of this stupid passport, I would be happy, to be honest. So yeah, who gives a fuck? But yeah, they've done it, basically, which is interesting. And there are more news about it as well. 1 second. The other law that kind of goes hand in hand with the first one is basically about stripping away of property of Belarusian people. Once again, it's been signed basically in secrecy, and it's basically somewhat at least similar to something that Russia has done or is doing, that basically the government can strip away you of your property or take away your property if it deems it necessary, basically. If it deems it necessary, basically. So it's not even about people. It's not even about like people so much as about companies as well. So once again, it's something similar to what Russia is doing, right? Like for example, some company, let's say like McDonald's, is saying like fuck that shit. We're not gonna participate in Russian economy anymore. We don't care about the fucking market. We're not gonna support them. So they're exiting the market. And then Russian government comes and says, well, okay, fuck you. We're going to expropriate your property. We're going to expropriate, buildings that you've built, all the equipment inside of it, and so on and so forth, right? So this is basically something similar to that, once companies are exiting Belarus as well, or those companies that exit in Belarus as well, and those companies that cannot, for example, take their property. You can't take really, but like equipment, so on and so forth. If they leave it basically in Belarus, Belarus sort of comes in and says, well, in the national interests, we're gonna expropriate it and we'll nationalize it and basically make it ours. I don't understand really, but like I'm obviously thinking differently, but I don't understand how you can be so brain dead to not see how this will absolutely fucking cripple not only your economy. Well, yeah, first of all, it will absolutely fucking cripple your economy, but will plummet your country into absolute abyss in just like 3 to 5 years. Because if this regime of this fucking potato fur will continue, and if the regime of Putin will continue as well, none of big businesses will do actual work with these countries, will do business with this country. None of the large companies who are producing amazing things, be it whatever, airplanes or cars or technology or even freaking machinery to build like factories and so on and so forth. Once those companies say, well, go fuck yourself, basically, what the fuck do you think you're gonna do? You're a shithole fucking dictator in a small country, and another fucking shithole dictator in a big country. just started a war and basically cut himself. Not even, he didn't shoot himself in one foot. He took a fucking chainsaw and cut both of his feet on his own. And you was stupid enough to depend only on him because you loved power so much. You just couldn't relinquish your power and go into retirement. So yeah, that's basically it. That's basically it. They can take anything away from anybody or any kind of company, business that they deem kind of who's like working against the government or whatever. So basically, like, for example, this is one interesting example. After 2020 or even before that, I'm not quite sure what year it was, but Skoda, right? Skoda, the car brand, basically said we're not gonna support. I think it was some sort of like a hockey champ because this cunt, the Lukashenko, he actually likes hockey a lot. He thinks he's a fucking genius hockeyist or whatever, and yeah, Skoda said like we're not gonna sponsor your fucking tournaments anymore because you're a fucking dictator and fuck you. I think probably it was after 2020. I'm not 100% sure. Let's say it was after 2020. And he is such a petty piece of shit. He doesn't care about people whatsoever. He is such a petty with such a fucking fragile, stupid fucking ego that's just fragile. Like, he's just a small man. Not even man. A fucking piece of shit. That he banned Skoda from this country, from country of Belarus. The same happened with Nivea brand of cosmetics. They also basically said, they pulled off their advertisement and said, we're not going to advertise in your tournaments or whatever, we're not going to sponsor your garbage shit. Because, yeah, I mean, it's a little hypocritical that they haven't done it before, because it was already shown in 2010 that this cunt will never give up his power. And 10 years later, people still were, dealing with this fucking retarded country and so forth, so on and so forth. If you didn't realize, I hate this country, even though I'm from here and I unfortunately live here. But that's why I hate it so much, because I see how disgusting this place is. Anyway, he banned Nivea as well. Why I know it? Because I found my perfect deodorant, like the perfect one that fits me exactly well, and it's from Nivea, and I feel like the fucking universe is conspiring against me. Because once I found it, again, a year or two later, boom, this shit, and then it's banned in Belarus. So, stellar. Anyway, so there's that. So basically now you can be stripped away of your citizenship, and you can be stripped away from all of your property if the government deems you a bad actor, essentially. Amazing, isn't it? That's just to say that this is just like for some of those Westerners who think their countries are pieces of shit and like some authoritarian, I don't know, dictatorship or whatever. How a lot of people were screaming when Trump was president. Like, people were literally fucking talking shit on Trump day in and day out on Twitter or other social media, on TV, everywhere. And in the end, even social media, it's not Trump who banned social media, it's social media who banned Trump. So it's like, wow, it's like literally the opposite of what dictatorship is. Which is, but by the way, I don't agree with those things either, of banning, especially working sitting president, which is insane. But that's by the by. I'm just saying that, like, Kim.com probably should listen to this critical discussion episode instead of reading whatever garbage or whatever fucking sources he's got. Anyway, well, it's like a new news apparently. Yeah, once again, like Putin. I don't even want to talk about that garbage. Piece of shit. Okay. So one thing about Belarus once again. There are a lot of like equipment, heavy sort of machinery, tanks, some BMPs, whatnot, are being apparently transferred right now to the territory, or right now stationed already on the territory of Belarus. And Belarus is basically right now is like training kind of a ground for a lot of Russian troops. I'm not sure if Russians are thinking that they will try to capture Kiev again in, I don't know, probably like in February on like a 1 year anniversary or something like that. They will try to go second time. I think it's going to be absolutely insane if they will do it, because they're going to get destroyed, of course. They're going to get destroyed. But also what's more interesting is that so far, seemingly Ukraine has done like I think one attack on Belarus and on Belarusian soil, in terms of like, because there was, I forgot when was it, maybe in August, September, I forgot when was it, when there's been like a couple explosions on like airfields in Gomeli region where a lot of like Russian troops are stationed. And I'm pretty sure Ukraine has done it. I'm not sure if, no, I don't think they're ever kind of admitted to this, but I think it's good. I think it's good that they understand that in case they need to strike preemptively, essentially on the territory of Belarus, and destroy Russian forces and Russian equipment on the territory of Belarus before it even reaches or crosses the border with Russia. I don't think it's necessarily that bad. I don't think what it will entail, because that could be seen as essentially attack on Belarus, and then Lukashenko might like mobilize people and like put a what is it, like a not curfew, what is it called? Oh my god, I'm losing my mind. Martial law. I obviously, as a person who still lives here, of an age, who would be probably mobilized, I don't want that to happen. At the same time, I don't think he's brave enough to actually do this, because there are some people, even like officers in Belarusian army, who are saying that if this will happen, if the mobilization in Belarus will start and there will be like martial law in Belarus, even people in army right now saying that a lot of this, like you will not be able to force a person to fight against Ukrainians. And a person who is in army right now saying that most likely, I feel like that mobilized Belarusians, after getting their weapons, will try to organize and basically become who this nation was in like World War II, or World War II, partisans. But this time they're going to be fighting against Russians, against Belarusian regime, and they're not going to be fighting against Ukraine. Unfortunately, I don't know how to really process this information, because I was talking to my best buddy some time ago, like recently, and he was telling me that actually there are a lot of brain dead people in Belarus as well, whose brains are brainwashed by Russian propaganda, and he thinks that unfortunately probably like 30-40% could actually take guns and actually go to Ukraine. I don't think so, because I feel like, I mean, I've had the unpleasant experiences talking to elderly people who are completely brainwashed because they watch too much TV, and most of the TV is just brain-dead Russian propaganda. But younger people, especially younger, like below like 35, below 40, they're getting their news mostly from the internet, and I don't think they would ever take the guns and actually fight against Ukraine, because Ukraine is not an enemy. Belarusian regime is the enemy. Russian army, Russians, Kremlin is the enemy, not Ukraine. So yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting sort of dilemma, not even dilemma, but just conundrum in a way. I'm just thinking like how it all can unfold. And yeah, I obviously don't want martial law in Belarus or anything like that, because the borders for this country are already fucking hard to exit. Basically, the borders are pretty strict in terms of in many terms, really. Yeah, martial law would not help whatsoever. Anyway, okay, so we've covered that. And now let's cover a few more topics, and then oh yeah, there was like a there was like a mobilization. How to even put it, like revisions, I don't know. Basically, Ministry of Defense, it's so fucking insane that they always say Ministry of Defense, was sending notes to Belarusian people, or called the numbers of men of mobilization age, and they were basically asking, what they're doing, where they're working, how many family members they've got, so on and so forth. I was actually avoiding for quite a long time those calls. I was literally like numbers that I didn't know in my that weren't basically in my contact list. I just didn't pick up and immediately banned them, blocked them. But then I was doing it for so long, and several of my like acquaintances and so on and so forth got those calls, and those calls were basically like, so hey, like, so you didn't need to go to mobilization office, to the draft office. It was all done by the phone, so I feel like it was mostly done like for like just fuck off, basically, because a lot of things in Russia and Belarus are done like that. It's just like fuck off. Basically, what they've asked is your like family status. Are you married, not married? Do you have children? How many? Because I think like if you have like 3 children, you have, imagine that, only if you have 3 children, then you have exemption, basically, even if you are like over whatever 25, 28, 30 age, then you have an exemption of going essentially to war if there is like a martial law and it's a wartime. Only if you have 3 children. It doesn't even matter about your like diseases or whatnot, conditions. So that like, yeah, they ask like where they work and so on and so forth. So anyway, long story short, I was avoiding it for so long then that actually I got the letter, not letter even, it's just like a fucking piece of paper. It's not even a letter, so it cannot be official, really. Someone basically put some piece of fucking shit in my like in post box, and I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. So they actually visited the house where I'm kind of signed in my passport. Assigned to, because in Belarus you have to be assigned in your passport to some location, and if you change the location, then you're gonna be assigned to like a different location in your passport. There will be a stamp which would say like where you like legally leave, kind of a thing. And technically you kind of need to, if you move somewhere inside of Belarus, technically you need to re-register, kind of. It's like a lot of shit to control people. There is no such freedom as like there is, but kind of legally, kind of not really, where you can just pick up your ass and move anywhere, and then the government doesn't fucking cannot find you, doesn't know where you are, and so on and so forth. They're trying to avoid that. They're trying to control people as much as they can. So anyway, I was thinking a long time, like, what the fuck should I do? In the end, I decided I'm probably like bringing too much attention to myself by really avoiding it, because I'm living in a smaller city, not the giant one, but not the smallest one, in a smaller city. And I was thinking that probably I'm bringing a bit too much attention to myself. So I decided, okay, let me give them a call, because I'm definitely not going there. So I called them and I'm like, well, I found that shit. What the fuck do you want from me? Basically, without like swear words, but with that attitude. Some woman like fucking said, oh yeah, we didn't know how to find you, la la la. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. What do you want? And again, they just ask like these several questions. Where do you live? Or yeah, like, are you living where you assigned to, like in this passport thing? Or where you like, yeah, status of your relationships or whatnot, and blah blah. And then she's like, yeah, well, thank you, bye. So I'm pretty sure that was done. In Russian, there is this like not yibis. There is this concept of who gives a fuck, kind of doing things like, who gives a fuck, whatever. I feel like it's mostly done like that, to basically give some reports back to the higher up people. I don't know, like it definitely worried me, let's put it that way, because in that draft, on it's not draft notice, but in that notice that I've got, it was saying that it's like a yearly sort of recounting, we're just like updating our statistics, whatever. But I know that this is not yearly, because it's never happened before. Literally, in whatever, like 15 to whatever, 10, I don't know how many years, since I've got like this little piece of paper that says like I'm not going to serve or whatever. Yeah, it's happened for the very first time. So that is slightly worrying. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. The same thing, by the way, that happened in Russia with parallel import, or basically you are like on the governmental level, basically given okay to basically steal like intellectual property or just general property of other companies, basically pirate things. It is basically done in Belarus as well. So what I mean, for example, when movie companies, right, theater companies, right, like the distributors exited Russian market and Belarusian market as well, so you can't watch anything legally in like movie theaters, for example. And so now, apparently, it was done in Russia already, and now apparently it's done in Belarus as well. Now those like theaters can like illegally download some whatever movies or whatever and just display them in the theaters, which is insane if you ask me, which once again just shows that these people are now living in one day. Basically, they're not thinking even a month or two in advance, even half a year, even 1 year in advance. They're just living in the now. Because these blatant kind of disregard of intellectual property and wish of the companies and the businesses who were operating here and who said like, okay, we're not going to do it, and then the government comes and says like, well, you're not going to do it, we're going to do it ourselves, who gives a fuck, take your property, take your intellectual property, and we're going to use it anyway. It doesn't matter if you allow us to do this or not. This blatant disregard of intellectual property, like I'm saying, will just send this region, Belarus in Russia, not like 10 years back. It will send it like 30 years back to USSR. This is what those old fucks in the government, in Russian and Belarusian government, they are from USSR. They still think USSR was the best place, and they're right now trying to rebuild it, basically. Only they, this time around, have all the luxuries, and the rest of the population will fucking suck dick, basically. But they don't give a fuck, because they've stolen so much money, and they've already built so much acquire so much wealth and build so much things thanks to those Western technologies and Western things, that they don't care anymore. They can live the rest of their pathetic fucking lives. They're all like 70 plus right now, so they're not gonna live long. Let's put it that way, next whatever, 10, if they're lucky, maybe 20 years. Now they just can chill basically. And they don't care anymore in which condition they will leave the countries. They literally took the countries from USSR period basically, and they will basically 20, 30 years later, they will revert it back to USSR, which is just despicable because it's despicable for me personally because I absolutely despise these countries, both Russia and Belarus. And so for me, it's like, it's so despicable that I was born here and I now have to suffer because of decisions of my parents, really, who were stupid enough to not realize that we should exit these pieces of fucking shit countries, or at least send our kids out of these fucking places. It's so sad. Anyway, so there is that. Basically, pirating and stealing property of other companies, of international companies, it's mostly obviously about them, is now basically allowed in Belarus. They're just doing the same thing as Russia. They're doing hand in hand in so many aspects. It's just unreal, really. In worst aspects, absolutely worst aspects. It would be good if they would be advancing and innovating and creating something amazing and great, both Russian and Polish, but no, they're just doing garbage after garbage after garbage after garbage. So there is that. Okay. Okay, so there was this basically. Okay, one second. Okay, basically, there was this human rights center called Vesna, or Spring, and the head of this organization, Elias Bilatsky, who is right now Nobel Prize winner, he is in jail. Not only he's in jail, but also a few other people are in jail from that human rights center. One person, Dmitry Solovyov, apparently, not that Solovyov, that Vladimir, never mind, is basically, what is the in absentia? Okay, he's been he's been tried. Yeah, he's been tried in absentia because he escaped Belarus. But just think about it. This man, right, Ales Bilatsky on your screen. If you're listening it, there's gonna be a version of it on YouTube, video version. So Ales Bilatsky, who is right now Nobel Prize winner, right? In Belarus, he's in jail. And he just got like 8 years, I think. Did he get already? Or is it still ongoing process? Process was ongoing, still ongoing, but it is from 7 to 12 years. Person who helped, or who was helping basically those who need the most, whose like impact and accomplishments basically have been recognized worldwide, is in jail and will not get out of that jail before that fucking potato mustache fur will not die and all this regime will not fall. This is what's most disgusting. So yeah, that's despicable. And like 8 to 9 years, 3 people got independent unions, representatives of independent unions. Gennady Fedunich, 9 years, Vasily Beresnev, 9 years, Vyacheslav Oreshko, 8 years. Some of them even got, like, 2 of them got even, like, a intense regime. Like, some, like, there is apparently this, like, a common or, like, general regime, and some more strict one. So 2 of them even got strict regimes. Why? Again, extremist fucking activities, which is basically protesting and basically urging people to protest. Hate speech, essentially, or something like that. Inciting feud. Apparently, we have in our criminal codex even that kind of shit, and call to sanctions, which all of these things are correct. And so by extension, remember I was just fucking talking about this? So by extension, because I essentially I agree with all of what they were saying. Well, I don't know what they were saying exactly, but judging by those fucking by those articles of criminal codex, this is my time as well, easily. So that's why I don't want to fucking ever do any videos or anything with me in the frame. I don't ever want to say my name, my real name. I don't want to ever show my picture or anything like that until I am able to escape this fucked up place. So yeah. Another even more insane and harsher jail time got people from Gomel region, from Svetlogorsk. Oleg Molchanov, Dmitry Avich, Denis Dikun. 21, 22, and 23 years and the court was closed court, so nobody was allowed to be there to to show this process to people, to witness it themselves, to record it, nothing like that. What they've done, I think, at the beginning of the war, they I'm pretty sure they tried to damage or destroy either railways themselves, with which Russian forces basically were bringing their equipment closer to the border of Ukraine and trying to attack Ukraine, or damage basically the control boards and things like that. So not destroying the tracks themselves, but destroying the equipment that controls basically how the trains are going, how the lights are operating, things like that, right? And they're basically they've been given insane, imagine. And by the way, nobody died. No civilian died. No civilian trains were damaged. No one was injured really. They just basically destroyed this switch relay board basically in this in this relay box basically. And for this they've got 20 to 23 years. How fucking insane is that? By the way, I don't think they will sit 20 years. There is no way. There is absolutely no fucking way. Both Putler and fucking Peterführer, there's no fucking way they will last that long. And once these regimes will have fallen, all these people will be free, and they will be hailed as true heroes. Because they have been fucking trying to prevent Russia to transfer even more of their equipment to Ukraine at the first, in February and March, in the first days even of the invasion. These are true heroes. Unfortunately, I don't see their pictures here, but yeah. Okay, well. Anyway, and once again, the thing that I'm reading called Zerkalo, it's previously known as Tutbai, the Belarusian, one of the most famous Belarusian news portals and so on and so forth, who was completely exiled from the country, banned in the country, and now they're operating basically under a different name, under another name, Zerkalo, which means mirror in English. And this resource is also banned in Russia. That's why I have to use proxy basically to actually even read those things. So yeah, that's the thing. That's the life in true dictatorship fucking states. You get 8 to 9 years for doing your union work and actually telling your, not constituents, but your people who you represent. If you're a representative of a union, you're talking to your workers and saying to use their power to withhold their labor. This whole country, every country, all the time, and I've talked about it, about this specific example when I was talking in a previous episode about Iran and the protests in Iran. This is the only thing people can do, withhold their right to labor. Because listen, as much as the world might lead you to believe that the capitalistic system is the only great and whatnot, it still stands on the shoulders of working people. And in this case, obviously, we're not talking about capitalism, we're talking about dictatorships, absolutely atrocious authoritarian regimes. They also stand on the shoulders of simple working people. And if those people decide they will not work, you can't force them to work. I mean, you can try, but at some point you will have to have more cops, way more cops, or at least number of cops should be close to police, whatever, close to the number of people. And I mean, in that case, how the fuck are you gonna actually pay to those police and force fucking enforcer or whatever the fuck? Anyway, so yeah, that's the news from Belarus. Atrocious country. Will not recommend to be here, to be born here, to live here. No. Absolutely atrocious garbage. So, yeah. I hope everybody can escape from here, and I truly hope all these regimes will fail. Will fall. Will fall. Russia will disassemble into many, many different states. Belarus will be free finally. And yeah, I hope 2023 will give us this great news finally. To see the fall of these atrocious regimes will be such a blessing, such a relief, really. Such an amazing feeling and thing to witness, at least for me personally. Because I despise and hate them with all my guts. Okay.